Tonight, a lot of new developments with Judge Brett Kavanaugh and his accuser. The president, of course, speaking out, and so is Anita Hill, the woman who was in a similar situation more than 25 years ago when she rocked the Clarence Thomas hearings with those explosive allegations. Then the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist who has been digging into Donald Trump's Russia ties for decades. He says this will not end well for the president. Also, an inside look at Chris Christie, the highs, the lows, and what could be next for the man who literally wrote the book on the former New Jersey governor. He joins us in studio. Evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and thank you for joining us on a very busy Tuesday. Now, during this program last night, news broke saying that Judge Kavanaugh and his accuser, Christine Blasey Ford, they would publicly testify on this coming Monday. But today, Senate Judiciary Chair Chuck Grassley says Dr. Ford, as yet, has not agreed to testify. Grassley says he has reached out to her several times and has yet to hear back, so he's questioning whether or not she wants to speak publicly about the allegations. She's even been offered a private session. Now, another key person in all of this, Kavanaugh's high school friend Mike Judge. The accuser says Judge was in the room when the alleged abuse occurred 35 years ago. She says Judge was laughing as Kavanaugh tried to rip her clothes off while covering her mouth so she couldn't scream. But Judge just telling the Judiciary Committee that he will not testify as he has no information to offer and he doesn't wish to speak publicly about the accusations. Now, speaking of high school, Kavanaugh's yearbook is now raising some eyebrows. One entry mentioning a Keg City club of 100 kegs or bust, with Kavanaugh's treasurer of said club, while others allude to hard partying and other, well, not so, encouraging comments for the prospective justice. Now, President Trump, of course, unwavering in his support for the nominee for the high court. He was asked today whether the FBI ought to investigate the matter, and here is what he said before heaping praise on Kavanaugh.
They have done supposedly 6 background checks over the years as Judge Kavanaugh has gone beautifully up a ladder. He's an incredible individual, great intellect, great judge, impeccable history in every way, in every way. I feel so badly for him that he's going through this, to be honest with you. I feel so badly for him. This is not a man that deserves this. This should have been brought to the fore. It should have been brought up long ago. And that's what you have hearings for. You don't wait till the hearing is over and then all of a sudden bring it up.
Now, this whole episode reminiscent for many of the Clarence Thomas confirmation hearings and Anita Hill's testimony more specifically. Hill, she wrote an op-ed in today's New York Times. I'm going to read a portion of it for you. Quote, "It's impossible to miss the parallels between the Kavanaugh confirmation hearings of 2018 and the 1991 confirmation hearing for Justice Clarence Thomas. In 91, the Senate Judiciary Committee had an opportunity to demonstrate its appreciation for both the seriousness of sexual harassment claims and the need for public confidence in the character of a nominee to the Supreme Court. It failed on both counts. With the current heightened awareness of sexual violence comes heightened accountability for a representative to do better. The 2018 Senate Judiciary Committee must demonstrate a clear understanding that sexual violence is a social reality to which elected representatives must respond." Plus, of all this, there is the political vacuum, and it is a big part of this story. These 4 politicians arguably hold the keys to this nomination, or more specifically, confirmation. Now, they're all Republican senators who are being closely watched, and for different reasons. Jeff Flake and Bob Corker, reliable conservatives, but both are retiring, and certainly there are no fans of one Donald Trump. They've also each spoken out and expressed their concerns about how this process has been handled. Now, I should mention Flake is on Judiciary, as is Susan Collins and Susan Murkowski, or I should say both of these Republican senators have concerns, albeit for different reasons. They want to hear more from the accuser. Collins said if Kavanaugh lied, for her, that is a disqualifier, and both of the female senators have said that Roe v. Wade was a litmus test for them that would be settled law for this prospective justice. Now, the GOP, they hold the slim majority, as you know, 51 to 49 in the Senate. They need to keep every vote that they can get, and a few Democrats are also being closely watched. Now, these 3 all voted for Trump's first nominee, Neil Gorsuch, and they've got tough re-election fights, and they come from red states, so they're in a tough spot. All right, let's bring in our panel to suss out both the politics and kind of a snapshot culturally of where we are as a country right now. Phil Reisman, radio host in WVOX, a columnist. He wrote for the Journal News for more than 30 years. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. Andrew Whitman, senior political correspondent. Also with us, Ellis Hennigan, columnist, political analyst, and author. He also has a new book co-authored by Chris Christie, and you can even pre-order it. It's called Let Me Finish, Trump, the Kushners, Bannon, New Jersey, and the Power of In-Your-Face Politics. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the program. Dom, once I saw Hill, I read the column this morning, it came back to me, and I remember, albeit in a much younger age, those hearings. Remember the soda can and the details that went along with that? But I remember you had all old white guys sitting on a panel hearing this testimony.
Bingo.
Right? And now
Bingo.
You have a different makeup, but you also have a different time. This is Me Too versus then. You see parallels between now and then?
Well, the first interesting thing, to your point of back with the Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas, all men, all white men are doing the questioning. And now, should this hearing happen on Monday, there will be some women U.S. senators on the Democratic side. So there are parallels to the degree, Richard, of he said and she said. But I just want to be on the record for, Richard, the friend, right? You don't just get to say, I have no recollection and walk away. Put him under subpoena and make him come, because they all need to be under oath, and then we get an opportunity to see who's telling the truth.
And to me, Phil, that really speaks to the broader issue, because even to the people who don't follow this really closely, I believe there's a whiff that one side, whether it's politically motivated or a search for truth or whatever it is, in the Democratic side, they want to learn more. On the Republican side, when you have McConnell and Grassley telegraphing that they want this thing over and done with, the faster the better. They rushed through in terms of the documents that were made available, or more specifically not made available. They had to get this thing done. This on the heels, obviously, as we remember, of Merrick Garland. For more than a year, we had only 8 justices. The seat went unfilled. I'm not trying to relitigate that, but I think without getting the granular part to the general public, what's the rush? What are they trying? Are they hiding something? Whether other documents would come out, more about Kavanaugh would come out if this thing waited. I think that they're in a spot that if they push this through, there may be more to come.
Yeah, the way I look at it is they are there's a new political reality that is different from, from the Justice Thomas hearings and all that stuff. But there's one big difference, and they have to listen. They were going to have to take the time, because we are in a different reality with the hashtag Me Too movement. The one thing that I would say that is really, there's a lot of differences between those two hearings, and one I just don't think has really been talked about that much, and maybe it's probably not politically correct to even bring it up in this environment. But are they deciding on a 17-year-old Kavannaugh, or are they deciding on one who's 50 plus years old, who has a lifetime experience, and presumably, even if it was
I think that's a big subject in the room. But what's been brought up recently
Thomas was an adult,
right? What's been brought up here is there are many states in this country where, as a 17-year-old, if charges were pressed then, he would have faced jail time. It wouldn't have been an excusable offense then, and would that, if that were to have been pursued, if they were to found that these be credible claims, would he be considered then for a Supreme Court justice with a lifetime appointment?
Yeah, but things are considered for teenagers, adolescents. They don't even have a fully developed brain yet.
But Phil,
I'm not excusing what happened.
Clarence Thomas was sexual harassment. This is attempted rape. That's the allegation, and there's no discount for that being 17 or being 16 or being 15. There just isn't. Not for somebody who's being considered for the highest court in the country.
I get back to the idea: is there redemption for a 17-year-old after 40-some years, or not?
Well, no, I don't think. Well, positively, there's no criminal exposure. Okay, statute of limitations. But the question is, it's a lifetime appointment, and this person can be making decisions on hugely consequential issues, including maybe a re-examination of Roe. I'll say another thing, Ellis. It was when the president chose to speak out today, it all of a sudden reminded, he actually had stayed quiet about this for 72 hours since Friday when this had come out, right?
Tough
and now he reopens it. You realize, A, he doesn't have any credibility, and then B, somehow he injected himself into the conversation with forgiveness and concern for the accused rather than the accuser.
Richard, should the day ever come that I am accused of sexual misconduct, would you please remind me not to have Donald Trump as my character witness?
I just made a mental note of
I
this,
mean,
yes.
he's not the man you want to give you a clean bill of health.
And by the way, Donnie Jr. got involved too.
And he'd be
not
even,
helpful
he
either.
might be even worse. Like Judge Kavanaugh, I attended an all-boys Jesuit high school, right? Now, it's a different one. Mine was in New Orleans, his was in Washington, D.C. But I think I know something about the culture of all-boys Catholic Jesuit elite high schools. It doesn't tell me whether he did what he is accused of doing. But I'll tell you this much. It tells me that it bears a proper investigation. And I don't just mean dragging a couple of people in front of television cameras and having senators insult each other on the other side. I mean a proper investigation. It's difficult, you're right, it's a long time ago. But send out some FBI agents, let them gather the information they can, see what they can confirm, what they can't confirm. It might not take 3 days, it might take 3 weeks or 3 months. But don't we owe it to ourselves as a nation to get the facts of this thing right? I'm telling you, I want to know the truth.
And you two guys, because you guys have written about the human condition, I'm not going to date you, but if he had handled it differently, Kavanaugh I'm talking about, because his representation today was, I don't even know the person, okay? That never works, by the way.
Not a good
Okay, but could he have said, listen, I'm sorry the woman's recollection is such. I remember this person vaguely, but none of those things do I remember. Could he have handled it differently in any way? Would it have mattered? Sure.
Well, we don't really know anything.
No.
No one's testified to this subject. We just hear this story that that's out there. But it's possible that he doesn't remember. Maybe he did it. Maybe he did it.
Well, shouldn't we investigate?
Fine.
Why rush it?
How are you going
to
to investigate though?
I know.
I know. Well, that's a perfect question because
especially
Andrew,
where alcohol is involved, where he might have had a blackout.
might have been part of the 100 Keg Club.
Let's see what we can confirm. Let's find the party. Let's see who was at the party. Let's get the recollections
couple
we can.
factual questions in play here, Andrew. One is, the President said the FBI can't get involved. I've heard many FBI agents say that's not the case. They can be, but the executive branch has to ask for it. So it's discretionary part.
The committee chairman can ask for it as well.
Exactly. The other part of this is we are hearing, and we haven't heard it directly from the accuser's voice, but from her attorney, she believes she's being set up for failure, where she's going in and it's a he said, she said by definition, and she'd like other witnesses that were there present that night to talk about what had happened, and they, meaning Grassley and McConnell, they want to limit it to 2 people, 1 day, 1 room, over and done with. Politically, at the end of the week, if she doesn't budge, do they go ahead, just bring in Kavanaugh, move ahead and never hear her, and then try and have the vote? Who do you think has to blink first?
I don't think they have Kavanaugh retestify without having his accuser testify. Because,
you think they then have the vote?
Yeah, I think they probably will. Without any additional information from the accuser, they're going to assume that this is wrapped up and they're going to move on and they're going to go for a vote. But you mentioned the politics of this whole thing, and that's, as much as I enjoy the discussion about the facts and would prefer we discuss it, this is all happening in the political world, and none of this can be divorced from the political realm. Trump has decided that he's in better shape if he sticks with Kavanaugh as opposed to going in a different direction. So he's now all in behind Kavanaugh. And there's reporting out of the White House that he's come to that conclusion over the last 24 hours. I think Kavanaugh needs to withdraw before Monday comes. Because if you think about it, it's going to be a he said, she said. We're not going to get a lot more clarity at the end of the day. Let me just finish this whole thing. You're going to wind up with Republicans on the Judiciary Committee. You said during the Clarence Thomas and Anita Hill hearing, it was all white men on the panel. Well, of the 11 Republicans, they're all men, and 10 of them are white, and the 11th is Ted Cruz. So it's not going to get a lot better.
The optics will be terrible.
The optics are going to be terrible. Somebody's going to go too far on some of the questioning. There is no upside from a PR standpoint for Republicans to want to have this hearing. So if they can avoid it, they should, and the best way to avoid that is to have their nominee go take a walk.
They can't win.
They can't.
Because even if she testifies in this political environment, they're going to have to believe her. Because that's the environment we're in.
45 days before a midterm election.
Don't you
that's the
just get the
environment we're
whiff
in.
with what's come out
Prima facie.
in the last 24 hours? I mean, things as innocuous, I grant you, as yearbooks and whatever. There's more. There's more out there. And there's always more, as these guys have dug and found out. And if I'm a Republican right now, that's what I'm most scared about. I'm going to go stick my neck out for somebody, and I don't know what's on the other side. I don't know what's in 90% of this guy's paperwork here in various things. If you read the questions he wanted to have posed in the deposition of Clinton when he was with the Star and Vet, that's the part that would give me huge pause. And if I'm Collins or I'm Murkowski, I can vote no and I'm okay at this point. I think they get a pass. So yeah, I think Andrew might be right, but I think we're a long way from Friday. Okay, we'll continue obviously to follow this. Now when we come back, the issue that usually dominates the headlines, the Mueller probe here. Well, the man who says Trump is an unindicted co-conspirator when it comes to the Russia probe, he's not just anyone. He's a Pulitzer Prize journalist who has been covering Donald Trump for 30 years, and he says if you think it's bad, just wait.